Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? Sony has long been revered for its keen industrial design. Some of its products have been known to push the envelope though, and this time we'll take a look at one of its computers where form was just as important as function. In a previous episode, I took a tour of Free Geek Twin Cities, where I ran across this all-in-one Sony VAIO. There seemed to be some viewer interest in it, so I borrowed it to take home and check out further. It's model PCV-V300G, which dates back to May of 2004. It features a 15-inch LCD in a relatively compact footprint with stereo speakers on the front and most of the ports on the left side. There are a pair of USB 2.0, 10100 Ethernet, 4-pin FireWire, and 56K modem ports, along with the typical color-coded audio in and out. But this model had a multimedia focus, so it also includes composite and S-video inputs, along with a built-in analog TV tuner. 2 USB ports isn't very many, so Sony tucked another pair of them on the back side, next to the power input. The machine also originally came with a wireless keyboard, mouse, and remote control, which sadly have gone missing. I'll have to make do with generic replacements. The VAIO's right side offers a tray-loading DVD burner, which at the time was starting to become more common on PCs. Beneath it are memory stick and, curiously, PC card slots. Given the computer's slim design, it's nice to see that Sony at least thought about expandability, even if it had to implement it in an unexpected way. Time to fire the machine up. I pressed the power button and it sprang to life. But between the fans and hard drive, it was pretty noisy. And as I expected, the hard drive was blank. Free Geek takes data security seriously, and computers are wiped as soon as they're donated. I decided to look into the fan noise first. It's possible that they were dirty, and a good cleaning would help quiet them down. Tilting the display forward revealed screws that hold the side panels on. I got the left side removed, followed by the right. Then I could press a pair of tabs and slide the top panel off to reveal the only 2 components that most owners would ever upgrade. The IDE hard drive sits in a bracket to the left of the power supply, and I got the wireless antenna for the keyboard and mouse moved out of the way. The RAM slots are covered by a metal shield, which I fished out. There are 2 slots for standard desktop-sized DDR modules, one of which was open. But it seemed like the shield had been removed before, so either the machine had gotten an upgrade at some point that was later reversed, or someone was in here for other reasons. My next task was to remove the back panel. I found a pair of screws in the bottom corners that I took out, then tilted the screen back to reveal another pair of screws securing the sides. Those easily came off, and that gained me access to the last 2 screws holding on the back. From there, I could use a spudger to release a set of clips across the top of the machine, which were making some scary snapping sounds. But thankfully, that's just the way these clips work. A closer look shows that they're perfectly fine. No dealing with brittle plastics this time. Under the back cover was a metal shield with cutouts for the fans. It latches in at the top, but the foil tape securing it had already been peeled back. I found a pair of screws at the bottom that needed to come out, but they were being blocked by the power supply. It's held in with just a couple screws from the side, then I could lift it up and maneuver it out of the way. That got me enough space to gain access with an extension on my screwdriver. Over the years, Sony has demonstrated an ability to pack components together creatively in order to save space, and this VAIO is clearly no exception. Finally, with the shield out of the way, I got full access to the motherboard. and found that the fans were already quite clean. Either this machine wasn't used very much, or whoever was in here before happened to clean them up. While I was inside, I was curious to check out the video capture circuitry, so I disconnected the hard drive ribbon cable to get it out of the way. And as it turns out, it's just a PCI card in a right-angle adapter. This makes sense, as when I was researching this model, I came across another one that was very similar. The PCV-V300G has almost identical specifications, except it doesn't include video capture. It very likely uses the same motherboard and simply comes with the PCI card slot empty. The last thing to check was the caps, since this machine was made during the height of the so-called capacitor plague in the 2000s. To my surprise, they all looked good, and that's likely in part due to the use of good quality parts from companies like Rubicon. Since the fans were already clean and seemed to be in good order, their noise is likely just normal for this machine. A compact all-in-one like this is going to be challenging for airflow anyway, so running the fans at higher speed isn't exactly surprising. With the VAIO back together, I got to work on installing Windows XP, which it originally shipped with. My preference would have been to use the factory restore disks, but these proved elusive. I couldn't find images for them anywhere on the internet, and like the original keyboard and mouse, they weren't included with the machine when it was dropped off at FreeGeek. These machines don't come up for sale very frequently, but on 2 occasions I was able to find listings for ones that were complete with their accessories. I reached out to the sellers, offering to pay them for a copy or image of the discs, but they either weren't willing to help or didn't respond at all. And unfortunately, buying new ones from Sony wasn't an option either. It stopped selling them years ago. Its support site suggested contacting Best Buy in the US, but when I reached out, I was told to try asking at a local store. When I did, they had no idea what I was talking about. And while I did find some sellers who offered so-called restore discs for this machine, they aren't the original ones. Rather, they're just collections of random drivers scavenged from the internet. So I ended up using a generic Windows XP install disk instead, which worked fine. This machine has 512 megabytes of RAM and a 2.8 GHz Pentium 4. There are 2 problems doing a clean OS install on VAIO machines from this era. First is that you're often on your own to find the missing drivers. Sony's website can't help because after the company divested its VAIO division in 2014, it stopped offering downloads for older computers. I was able to find someone who had created a mirror of the Sony FTP server, but it was hard to dig out what I needed, as the way the files were organized and named made it impossible to sort them by computer model number. What worked was looking up the hardware ID of a device missing its driver, then searching to find the name of the corresponding installer file so I could download it. But this still doesn't help with the second problem, which is finding all the associated applications that originally came with the computer. I was able to find a small bundle of utilities for this model, but one of them was just for managing the shortcut keys on the keyboard I didn't have, and the other only installed a simple program that lists the machine's specifications. Sony never made the application installers available for download, so in the case of this machine, it means that the capture card and TV tuner won't work. Which is a bummer because the GigaPocket software that shipped with it sounded pretty cool, offering scheduled TV recording and the ability to burn them to DVDs. And at an even more basic level, not having the configuration utility for this model means there's no way to control certain aspects of the hardware, like the brightness of the screen. This lack of software is probably the biggest hurdle when trying to restore Sony VAIOs. The Internet Archive has recovery disk images for a few models, but there are plenty more that are still missing. If you happen to have the disks for this one, the PCV-V300G, or any other VAIO model for that matter, please consider uploading them for the benefit of others. But until or unless that happens, this is as far as I can go with this one. Sony was long criticized for its proprietary stance on how it built its computers, but the flip side is that it allowed them to create some interesting machines. I can see how this one, for example, could have been a very compelling option for someone working with home video, or perhaps a university student living in cramped housing. With a built-in tuner, a separate TV wouldn't be necessary, and one could hook up a game console to the video inputs, which probably would have been a good idea since this machine shipped with simple SIS onboard graphics. A gaming powerhouse, this certainly wasn't. Otherwise, though, this is an interesting computer, far removed from the utilitarian end of the computing spectrum. It certainly wasn't for everyone, but if you had a matching set of needs or lifestyle, this all-in-one Sony VAIO quite likely was a perfect fit. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. You can follow me on social media at thisdoesnotcomp, and as always, thanks for watching.